You've achieved things, you're capable, you show up, you handle it, you make it work. And from the outside, it looks like success. But internally, something doesn't land. There's a disconnect you can't quite explain, a quiet tension between the life you've built and how you actually feel in it. And most people assume that gap means they need to do more, fix more, achieve more, push a little harder. But what if that's not the problem? What if the reason you feel stuck isn't about what you're doing, but about the patterns you've been carrying that were never fully processed? In today's episode, I sit down with Manna Abraham, who went from experiencing profound personal adversity to becoming the youngest CFO in her organization, only to realize that success doesn't resolve what's happening beneath the surface. And what she shares will completely shift how you think about healing, identity, and why so many high-achieving women still feel exhausted, disconnected, and unfulfilled. This conversation isn't about doing more work on yourself. It's about finally understanding what's been running underneath it all and what actually allows you to feel free. Ever wonder how you check every box and still feel empty inside? Welcome to Rewiring Health, the space for the woman who holds it all together on the outside while quietly losing pieces of herself on the inside. The woman who fawns to keep the peace, overachieves to feel worthy, and sacrifices her needs to avoid disappointing anyone. Here, you will learn a new way. Each episode will help you understand your nervous system, break the patterns that drain you, and rebuild a life rooted in self-respect, calm confidence, and genuine inner peace. I'm Kelly Kessler, and this is your homecoming. Let's dive in. Have you ever noticed your skin reflects your stress? I used to struggle with mine, dry, dull, reactive, until I started pairing nervous system regulation with products that actually honor your body. That's why I love Milk and Butterflies. They handcraft every formula with 100% organic ingredients and powerful aromatherapy oils. They aren't just products for your skin, they're rituals that restore hydration, resilience, and calm even in the busiest seasons of our life. You can try them for yourself and feel the difference. Head to Milk and Butterflies and use my promo code Dr. Kelly for free shipping. That's DRKELLY for free shipping. Also, check out the link in the description for the podcast. All right, welcome back to another episode of Rewiring Health. So honored to have Manna Abraham on the podcast today. So thanks for joining me.
Thank you, thank you, Kelly. Thank you so much for having me today in your
Absolutely.
show.
So I'm so looking forward to this conversation. I know what you speak on and who you help is really going to be speaking to so many people in tremendous ways. But I want to start first with your story. What led you down this path to doing what you do today?
Mm. Yeah, I think like like we all do, our own journeys will guide us where to go. And when we are more sensitive not as in the weak side of things, sensitive as in you perceive more information, more data, and you understand more than many people without saying much, without talking much. And when there is the gap, the conflict that we experience, sometimes we don't know how to handle that. And I think it has been a common thread throughout. And my own experiences of losing my mom at the age of 3, and then trying to live life on my own in many ways, surviving an abuse, surviving a tsunami. I think one thing, and also an accident that totally changed my life, where after that bike accident and lying unconscious on the road for about an hour, I think the one decision that totally changed my life is I'm going to live today, and I'm
Mhm.
going to go to bed with no animosity towards anybody
Mm.
whatsoever. So I met with this accident, and when I was on a bike and I fell and I was unconscious on the road, and by the time I got up, I know that somebody is giving me water, and but then I came back home. And the first thing I did is, as a teenager, you write your diary and journals, and you put everything on it, like they were like the things that I didn't like about people that I've written in my diary there.
Mhm.
And then I thought, what if I never came back and this is what they got to read?
Mm. Yeah. Wow.
And that made me to decide that starting that day, I will never, never sleep with any animosity towards anybody. And
Mm.
so that almost became my mantra in spite of everything that I have experienced. And then when I had to leave my home to escape everything that I had to escape, run away from with absolutely nothing, and I had to fund my own education, help myself, and then life took a turn. But when you achieve all of these things, and I was a chartered accountant, youngest CFO, landed in California, and everything else. You're traveling the world, setting up organizations, international taxation advisor. I've become the CFO. All these that you can aim for from there, like literally, absolutely nothing to all of this. And so, what is success really then?
Mhm.
You got it. Then what is success? When you cannot sleep in the night because of nightmares,
Mm.
what is success? But you're in the boardrooms and everything else, but go back, you cannot sleep without the
Mhm.
light on. And I think that led me to question more about life, success, education, travels, adventures, careers. Are we just distracting ourselves from what we really have to face? And
Right.
when working with so many people, because I worked in organizations, big teams as 1,300 people, and people we kind of categorize them in leadership, right? Meyer Briggs, or put them under DISC or Dale Carnegie trainings, or we personalities we put them in. But are we labeling them based on who they are today, or are we focusing on what made them who they are? What
Mm.
brought them to this journey? It's so easy to label people as introverts, extroverts, and all of that. But are we
Mhm.
truly understanding them? Are they introverted because of some fear, or are they truly introverted? Are they extroverted because of some fear of not being accepted or whatever, or are they truly extroverted? So
Yeah.
and the work defines a lot of your personality traits also, right? Because
Mhm.
when I was an auditor, I was an absolute compliance person, and when I was a CFO, you become dominating and inspiring because your work defines your personality, like how you do. So if I believe that I am a compliance person for life because of that one work role, am I that?
Mhm.
And
Right.
it kept changing based on
Mhm.
the work you do. So, how shallow are we to put people into boxes, not knowing their stories? Not that you had to know their story, but at least you should appreciate their journeys, not just resources.
Mhm.
They're not
Yeah.
just resources. And once I started focusing on people, not necessarily the task, then people perform and they deliver efficiently.
Mhm. Yeah.
So we focus a lot on task and how to do the task better, but then when we focus on what is happening to this person, this human being behind, and that human being delivers better efficiency, right? But that we do that in our lives, like as a parent, as a partner. It's not the role of a mother or a father, it's who are you behind the role of the mother, the human being, the father, right? The leader, who are you? So that led me into this work, and by default, we all are very logical because of this logical analytical background. We want to equate 1 plus 1 equals to 2 because I also have maths, physics, chemistry in my background. But so that led me into neurosciences, hypnosis, subconscious, and all of that. But that's not cutting it. That's really not cutting it. And being who I am, maths person, 1 plus 1 equals 2. Where is 1 plus 1 equals to 2 for life,
Mhm.
for mind? I think that search did
Mhm.
not stop. So if you are a psychologist or a therapist or a neuroscience practitioner or whoever you are you working on symptoms?
Mhm.
Or are you going to the real reason as to why somebody is suffering, right?
Right. Mhm.
So we can have 10,000 techniques to work on symptoms, but what is that, the real thing behind? Like, what should fundamentally change to change everything around? right? Like I give this metaphor of keys and locks. So there's one key for 1,000 locks, or 1,000 keys for 1,000 locks. I think we are focusing on 1,000 keys for 1,000 locks, but there is one key. So that's the search that led me to what I'm doing.
I want to take a brief moment to pause from the episode to share something that I've noticed so many women struggle with, and maybe this resonates with you, that you do not feel safe to honor your own needs. You might be the one who learned how to be easy, capable, and reliable, and yet you're tired of overriding yourself. You're tired of explaining your no, you're tired of feeling guilty for wanting space, and tired of shrinking your truth to keep the peace. The thing that most people don't realize is that you can't actually protect your peace without a sense of inner safety. And without that safety, boundaries feel harsh, guilt feels unavoidable, and self respect feels like something you're constantly working at instead of resting into. If you have that quiet, steady craving for self respect, the kind that lives in your body, Self Respect Reset was created for you. It's a guided, body based experience designed to help you rebuild inner safety, trust yourself again, and honor your needs without guilt, explanation, or self abandonment. You can find the link below, and I can't wait to. The link to join is in the show notes, and you'll find the link below in the show notes whenever you're ready. If this calls to you, you can find the link in the show notes to join. If this speaks to you, you can find the link to join in the show notes. Now back to the episode. Yeah, I love that. And there's so many things I want to pull out of that and just
Sure.
unpack, but it's really is that, you can pull the weeds or, clip the weeds,
Yeah.
but if you don't get the root of it, they're just
Good.
going to keep
Yeah.
growing back
Yeah.
and more forcefully. And I think that's
Yeah.
something that you see so prevalent is
Mm.
just symptom management and
Yeah.
not really
Yeah.
recognizing that there's so much more depth. And I think we
Yeah.
really cut ourselves short in realizing like how complex we are. Nothing is that simple. And there are
Mm.
stories and there are generations that all play a role in this and emotions and I love how you talk about identity and how that really shapes who we are and how we function and our belief systems because our identity leads that. And for
Mm.
our whole life, we've been told who we are, or
Mm.
society tells us who we are based on what we look like or the roles we're playing. And that our truth, or is there
Mm.
something deeper that's our real truth?
That's
And
true. Yeah.
that's that curiosity of like when you
Mm.
stop and pause in life, you can get a little bit deeper, but life is so fast that I think we all get stuck in that trying to uphold our roles that we really
Yeah.
don't dive deep into the reality and the truth of who we are.
Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
love that you shared that
Mm.
importance of identity and really recognizing that.
Mm.
And for you, what was something that you unpacked that, you said you were playing these roles, the auditor, the compliance, and then what allowed you to go deeper and being like, well, who am I really? What am I beyond the roles and identities that I've been given?
Yeah. Good one. Thank you for asking that.
Mhm.
So when you, I think that the first time when I realized it's really I think it's really from the Myers-Briggs assessment, like way back. That's the first thing that made me to think, is that true? We never question that.
Mhm.
We get a we believe in this personality test. We believe in this labels, archetypes so much that we do not question, is that true? And that is the true shaped and shifted everything for me because I was a strong INTJ in Myers-Briggs, and it remained INTJ for a while because I'm working in similar ways.
Mhm.
And I first for the first time, and because I was an INTJ, it's so interesting how the seemingly negative situation can actually teach you so much. So the first time when this INTJ came up, and we this the leadership team sitting in, and then we are doing the assessment for the each departmental heads as a leadership team.
Mhm.
And there were only two people who came across as INTJ, and the person who was facilitating said, "There are only few INTJs, not
Mhm.
many." And somehow that created a competition in the leadership team, that so how can you only two be, you both are INTJs and we are not, kind of a competition. So I found that very funny, that how can we compete on different levels, even there we compete.
Mhm.
And that made me to think, am I really an INTJ? Is that true? And are you really a E? Is that true? And when that question came up, is that true? I realized that's not true, right? And the beginning is, that's the beginning where the introvert became an ambivert.
Mhm.
And the ambivert realized that none of that really matters,
Mhm.
because there are various the identities, the hidden identities, the patterns, the roles, the conditioning, everything shaped us. There is nothing that did not happen that brought us here. So everything shaped us in some form or here. But how much do you want to dig into?
Mhm.
How
Right.
much do you want to go into and do a band-aid in the name of timelines or regressions or quantum healings? How many symptomatic band-aids we should be doing to do
Mhm.
that? That led me to think there is something deeper. And that deeper is not a modality, not a technique. It's and that's how I went into ancient wisdom to understand, like, how this human being works, how this human mind works. Interestingly, 10,000 years ago, everything about the mind was already written, and we did not change much from there.
Mhm. Interesting.
And
Wow.
yeah, it's so interesting, isn't it? We think we progress so much
Right.
technologically and everything, but from the mind point of view, and this ancient wisdom talks about, the very first thing talks about fear.
Mm. Mhm.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we are attached. So that attachment
Mhm.
is the root for everything. So there's no technique to that.
Mhm.
There is
Right.
no gestalt for that.
Mhm. Yeah, it's
That's
so
very
profound
interesting.
because it's
Yeah,
that either fear or love, and it's that sense of
yeah,
certainty. I think some of those
yeah,
identities give us that we
yeah.
think we can avoid the fear if we just have
Mm.
something to hold on to strong enough. And we
Yeah,
know that doesn't work, but I think we all can get stuck. I think every one of us gets stuck in those
yeah.
patterns of like, if I just know who I am and this is the
Mm.
identity I anchor myself into, then I
Yeah,
have some sense of certainty, and then I don't have to
yeah.
feel that fear of maybe not
Abs-
knowing what I'm here
Yeah.
for or not knowing who I really am.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So we are always trying to cling to something, cling to something, cling to a role or an internal identity, or a 17-year-old who wants to be independent. Independence becomes our identity. And how do you demonstrate that? Inability to ask for help, cannot delegate, cannot say, I don't know, because somehow independence, not being independent, becomes a weakness. Well, the
Hmm.
truth is, we are dependent all the time, aren't we?
Right.
Right?
Absolutely.
Supermarkets, traffic lights, roads, right? Entertainment, information. We are always depending. But see the slight illusion that we create, that independence becomes the streak,
Hmm.
and then somehow not being independent becomes the weakness. Isn't that interesting to
Hmm.
see that way?
It
Yeah.
is. It's like we don't see the world for how it is. We see
Yeah.
it by how who we are. I forget who says that. It's a the
Mm,
quote, but like that's how it is. We only see the world through the lens in which we have at that time.
mm,
And it's like reading a book and then you read the same book 10 years later, you see it differently because you're a different
mm.
person.
Different
That's the
person.
power of it. And I would love for you to go deeper into how when you went to the ancient wisdom and really uncovering that it doesn't matter if we go through all those years of things we've accumulated, but it's really right now. Can you go extrapolate on that a little bit further and talk about what
Mm.
does that really mean or what does that look like?
Sure, thank you. Right. So I talked when I did this journey of first getting very logical and practical, because you can imagine as a CPA how analytical your mind will be, very business oriented, very analytical, very much like checking the bottom line to ensure that everything is safe and secure before, not not too much of risk, right? Because you always plan for the risk and a backup plan always. From that very analytical mind, why that is important, I mentioned about that risk and backup plan, is we always somehow prepare for the uncertainty and the unknown by default.
Mm-hmm.
By default, we do that. Like why we eat food, why we take care of our health, why we save money, why we work, why we create and families, why we develop networks and communities. By default, we are always preparing for the unknown and the uncertainty. So we are connecting, we are building, but the underlying current is preparing for the unknown and the uncertainty and being safe. But however, when it comes to the conscious level, that becomes a bad thing, that your mind is keeping you safe, your
Mm-hmm.
body wants you to be safe, it becomes a bad thing. And the moment it becomes a bad thing, you want to push against it. And the moment you push against it, you start suffering. The pain is inevitable. But
Mm-hmm.
throughout our life, everything we are doing is preparing for that uncertainty, the unknown, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, why that is important is because of that, we got so strongly wired into this concept of time. And this time is so strongly wired in us that we have to believe past, present, and future.
Mm-hmm.
That's a human construct, isn't it?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And the moment we believe there is a past, present, and future, now we are buying into it so much that you have to go into the past, right? But the truth is, you are only going into the past because of your memory.
Mm-hmm.
You are pulling it. You are there's all these thoughts, like how I view the world is, you have everything here, the thoughts, memories, emotions, your thoughts, my thoughts, everything is over here. And if I am matching frequency 678, which is your thought frequency 678, and if that 678 is to be happy, and then I attract that 678.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm doing, say, 123, which is somebody's depression frequency 123, if I am tapping, I'm choosing that, then I am in frequency 123 depression. It's a pretty much, it's like this web of information, and what are you putting in Google search and
Mm-hmm.
drawing it, and you're acting on it, you're identifying with it, right? We create our evidences.
Mm-hmm.
But this time paradox is so powerful. So instead of trying to, and we are buying into it, and we are trying to cut the diamond with a diamond, like a concept where you have a past, so let me take you into the past, but we are not courageous enough to say you don't have to go there,
Mm-hmm.
because we want to build into your story than having a different view. That the first question, why are you even choosing that memory?
Mm-hmm.
Why
Yeah.
are you even choosing that thought? You're
Mm-hmm.
not creating it, you're receiving it. Why are you creating it? Why are you choosing it? Why are you even pulling it? Why are you, even if you pull it, why are you trying to identify with it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? The picture in the background, my picture, if I throw it, it doesn't mean anything to you
Mm-hmm.
because you don't have any story to it, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But if
Right.
someone throws it, I have a story to it.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see that? So the time past, present, and future is such a human construct, and we are so buying into it. And we are talking about timelines. And then, because of that, we are creating past lives, future lives, present lives. And we are, if the mind is not getting significance externally, it has to find its own significance internally too, somewhere. That internal significance becomes like, we all want to be past life something, right? Either a victim, like most often I hear that I was a witch, or I was burnt, or I was a soldier, or nobody says I was a beggar, I was weak, I was
Mm-hmm.
poor. Can you see the significance, how it
Right.
works? Internal
Mm-hmm.
significance. So if you're not getting the significance here, you will draw it internally.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're drawing that internal significance somewhere, and if I am seeking you to pacify my internal significance, then you have to act with my story.
Mm-hmm.
But is that true?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Right? So once we overcome come out of the timeline concept, that past exists, a future exists, and if only this moment, so I am sitting here this moment, and I am choosing any memory that I want to pull out, and memories are fabricated anyway, because what happened is not what you remember.
Right. So,
What is, yeah, go
oh,
ahead.
sorry, go ahead.
Mm, yeah, so what happened
Mm-hmm.
is not what you remember. What is not what you believe, because there's so many different things around that our mind is ignoring. We don't take it, we don't consciously perceive it, because our peripheral vision, external and internal, is narrow. We did not develop that, right? Because of that, if you as a therapist or a facilitator or a practitioner, if you are beyond this time concept, then you become the placebo, and they don't go into this past life, future life story. And in this moment, consciously, what choice am I making? That conscious choice will change the future and the past at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So two people can have same experience, same thought. And if this person is wanting to dig into the past and change, there's nothing wrong with it, because horses for courses. Sometimes you have to be gentle to go there and bring them up. But you should not, as a practitioner, you should not get carried away by it. Right? That's for a child. If you think the teddy bear is alive, I'll play with you.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that's not it. Are you seeing what I'm saying over here? So when the practitioner is in that space, then you can play with it. And this person, it believes, oh, my memory, my past life, work with it. But you don't get carried away as a practitioner with it. You bring them there. And there can be another person who thinks, yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm going to change my life now,
Mm-hmm.
right? So this person can change the past and future at the same time, and this person will take little longer, because their story is the teddy bear is alive, and it will take that time to understand it's a toy. I mean, in
Mm-hmm.
the big picture, everything is alive, but for the metaphor, for the story, you're getting that, right? So the moment we overcome this time concept, you heal faster.
Mm-hmm.
The moment we get out of this time concept of past and something, someone significance, we start living our life,
Mm-hmm. I
and
love
we don't focus so much on the past. Yeah.
I love to like just go into like an example just for like clarity of understanding. So if someone because I've had this experience, I know so many people have had this experience of like something happened, maybe it's a betrayal, and you're trying to like be in the present moment, just live your life, and it's like it keeps coming forward. Things keep like reminding you of like, oh, that happened, or your mind just like wanders to that. How would you navigate that? Like that happened in the past, and so there is a timeline there, but what is it that say you're experiencing now that keeps coming back into the present, even if you're not like intentionally trying to think about that, but it keeps coming
Mm.
into your awareness?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. So in reality, there is no betrayal, isn't it? In reality, why? Because if we truly apply the concept of compassion, that person who had no strength or skill to communicate what he or she wants is avoiding conflict
Mhm,
and choosing a different path. And it is not easy for them too, because
mhm,
they are going through their own trauma.
mhm,
And if we view it from that compassion to the other person whom we think betrayed us,
mhm,
then there is no betrayal. It's purely understanding that human being, that, okay, so you did not have the skill or a strategy or the leadership, personal leadership, or maybe you're so afraid of avoiding a conflict that you chose to avoid this and run away from it.
mhm,
And but if I make it like about me, like how could you do this to me, it becomes betrayal,
mhm,
right? But it is not about that, because in relationships, two people who meet today with similar interests, are not the same people even after 1 year, because, and that's what I did a reel yesterday on that. Like, two people do the same journey of 12 months, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And for example, for a person like you, instance, like looking at you, you're very sensitive, you get the information, you process much more, and because of that, you try to keep the harmony and peace because you sense it before everybody else sensing it.
Mm-hmm.
That is your 12 months journey. And another 12 months journey, they don't get it, they're more black and white. So
Mm-hmm.
your 12 months is not their 12 months, isn't it? You are taking 30 years of information in 12 months. They're taking only 12 months of information. So they can never understand this person because that's not in their world. But we are not wired or trained or conditioned to think. We think if you are in kindergarten, we all spend 1 year, then we all will get alphabets right and we spell it right. We are forgetting there is much more evolution happening underneath each child.
Mm-hmm.
We are applying the same to human beings.
Yeah.
And we are thinking, my 12 months is your 12 months. We spent 20 years together, is your, no, perhaps 20 years you spend 60, and in 20 years they're only spending 10.
Mm-hmm.
I saying
And
this,
you're vibrating
when,
at a different
yeah,
that's when you see those separations are coming together
yeah,
depending on where that person evolved from
yeah,
that. Mm-hmm.
yeah. And because of that, your evolution is faster
Mm-hmm.
or slower wherever you are. Then it snaps after a point, isn't it?
Right.
That
Mm-hmm.
snapping is not because of you, but emotionally, when you operate from attachment, identifying that my role is to keep this relationship together, only then I'm a good person, meanings,
Right.
why did this happen to me? Why did this happen to me? But the truth is, sometimes the purpose is over
Mm-hmm.
and it snaps
Yeah.
in the big picture, in the very big picture. And sometimes I always associate life with a train journey. People jump in at day stations, we sit together, we have a chat, maybe we share a meal, we have a laugh, long journey. When their stop comes, they go, and another passenger comes in, and we form bonds. But
Mm-hmm.
when I start thinking that no, 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 you should not get down at your stop, you should be with me throughout the journey till I go, or you are not getting down where you have to get down, thinking that you have to give this person the company, that's
Yeah.
when that conflict begins. And the
Mm-hmm.
betrayal, we project that, but in essence, they need help too.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So, but when we get stuck in this role as a woman or a man or a parent or a single mom or a single parent,
Mm-hmm.
then that feels like a betrayal. But that's all is there, you know. You cannot expect a kindergarten to read a Shakespeare
Mm-hmm. Right.
because you can.
Mm-hmm.
But if they cannot, that's not a betrayal, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's all is their
Yeah.
ability.
It's accepting
Right. So
that that's where they
accepting
are.
that that's
Mm-hmm.
their ability. That's it.
Yeah.
There is no good or bad about it. There is no judgment about it. Yes, there is an inconvenience, but you will forgive if your child makes a mistake and if they break something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, but only because we are seeing them as adults.
Mm-hmm. Right.
We are not able to, but they are children in adult forms. Can you see
Mm-hmm.
how when we stand from this compassion, we can accept them like, okay, you're a child, you broke the glass, that's okay, we will wipe it up. It can be
Mm-hmm.
an inconvenience. Maybe they got hurt. You will take the pain of taking them to the hospital or whatever, but it's not a betrayal. It's not lack of mindfulness. We don't judge anything. We just say it's a child.
Mm-hmm.
But to the adults, because adults, we compete. So I can see that. Why can't you see it? But genuinely, they cannot.
Mm-hmm.
Then,
Right.
from that lens of compassion, not that you have to put yourself down.
Mm-hmm.
If they had the ability to understand you, if they had the ability to talk to you and communicate to you openly, and if you're on the equal grounds,
Mm-hmm.
it's a different story.
Mm-hmm.
But the very fact they did that, they never got you right in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So why do
Right.
you even cry about it? So you're crying not because they betrayed me. We are crying because why did this happen to me?
Mm-hmm.
What will happen to me? What about the time I invested in this relationship? What
Mhm.
about children, society, family? How will I grow old? Loneliness. And isn't it better to not have this person than having this person into your old age?
Mhm.
Saying that. So this absolute compassion for them, for their journey,
Mhm.
and for you, because we saw, like, as you said, for example, I'm just connecting the dots here. For example, you said people pleasing. Maybe you're not a people pleaser. You sense more information. So you have more compassion than someone.
Mhm.
So you work on that. But also, like, just again looking at you, you have this enormous ability where you can give without questioning what is in it for me.
Mhm.
What a strength is it?
Right.
What a personal character, right? To be doing that. And if you can just thrive in it without asking what is in it for me, and you can serve, what a life of service, right?
Right. Hmm.
Right?
Absolutely.
So then, if they cannot understand that, and if they want to call you weak or whatever, whatever, that's their lens
Hmm. Yeah.
saying that. So then there is no betrayal, isn't it?
Mhm. Right. Absolutely. I
Right?
want to go into that a little bit further because I think a
Mm.
sticking point for so many I know that like listen to my podcast specifically is
Yeah.
that having that compassion, but then also allowing continued access for harm. And I would
Mm.
love if you can differentiate that we can have compassion, we can feel forgiveness and have that neutrality in what is.
Yeah.
And also, what does that look like as far as access to your life or almost just letting things go and then continue on in the same patterns. Can you differentiate
Mm.
that of like what that looks like?
Sure, sure. So allowing the caterpillar to struggle
Hmm.
is compassion.
Hmm.
Pulling it out to avoid discomfort is violence,
Mm. Oh, I like that example.
right? So that is discernment.
Mm-hmm.
So for leaders, they avoid anything to fail. They avoid people to make mistakes, the fear that if you make a mistake, but allowing that caterpillar to struggle to come out of its cocoon is compassion, is leadership,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we never really fear. For example, if the worst happens, 9 out of 10, we all have this enormous capability to withstand that,
Mm-hmm.
and we will turn it around. But what we fear is the idea that it might happen.
Mm-hmm.
The idea I might end up alone. The idea the society will hate me. Idea children may not talk to me. But when it happens, you're much more stronger than that.
Mm-hmm.
So we always fear the bubble. We live in that bubble and we fear that bubble may burst. But once it bursts, you will get the superpowers naturally,
Mm-hmm.
right? So compassion, especially when kindness becomes your template or compassion becomes your template. If you have, for example, if you are a teacher or a parent or an entrepreneur, you will have different personalities. One person, again, if you even if you want to apply different archetypes or personality styles, one person needs a softer approach, one person needs a challenging approach, another person needs maybe just give them and leave them alone approach. That's not ignoring them.
Mm-hmm.
Silence is not punishment for them. But there's another person, if you don't speak, they don't perform.
Mm-hmm.
Saying that. So different people. So that is personal leadership. Personal leadership is where to know what to give and how much to give. Not because I am kind, but because what you need for you to be empowered.
Mm-hmm.
So people pleasers and kindness templates, what happens usually, the compassion templates, what happens? Because somebody was not compassionate to me, I don't want anyone to suffer like me. And you start avoiding that for them.
Mm-hmm.
If it is stemming from that space, then you are trauma bonding or you're disempowering others.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But if that same compassion is coming from a person who betrayed, for example, but if the same compassion is coming from, okay, I see your journey. You're avoiding conflict. You need help too, but you may not be ready. And it's not my role to tell you because I can help only if you are ready,
Hmm. Right.
right? And then operating from it and saying, yeah, I let you go.
Hmm.
That is also compassion.
Hmm.
And compassion from disempowerment is where I know you're cheating. I know you're doing things without my knowledge. I know, but I'm compassionate. I'll forgive you.
Hmm.
And you're doing that because what if I leave this relationship? Financial responsibility, I have to earn all of it. I don't want to work so much. Or children, there is convenience. If I leave this, if all responsibility falls on me, how do I deal with this? Right? Or I don't want to be alone. Known devil is better than the unknown. And
Hmm.
from there, you are suppressing and you are performing or keeping it. That compassion and forgiveness is disempowering,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
Because it is stemming from fear.
Hmm.
But it
Yeah.
stems from, you know what? I will turn around my life, conscious choice. And I
Hmm.
see what you're doing. And yeah, you need help. And I need help too because I entertain. I allowed
Hmm.
this to come to this point. So I'll take care of me, focus on me, and I let you be.
Yeah.
But not from fear, not from anger, not
Hmm.
from frustration, not from regrets and shames. If only I could have been better, if only I should have done that. Without that, then that is empowering, and
Yeah.
that is absolute ultimate compassion and forgiveness.
Hmm.
But if you are in this empowered state and if you're seeing it, you don't need compassion and forgiveness because
Hmm.
there's nothing to be compassionate and nothing to forgive.
Because you understand that it was all working
Yeah.
for you
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that
Mhm.
understanding you don't need. But when, as long as you don't have that understanding, you have to take the support of compassion and forgiveness either to pull you down and or raise you up.
Hmm.
You have to take that support. But once you understand, once you see this, there's no need for that one, even gratitude and all of you don't. But when you're not in this, you are not in an empowered state. You have to use these tools. But how many people who think they forgive can actually forgive?
Hmm. Right.
Right?
Hmm.
How many people they think, oh yeah, I forgive them. I'm not going to talk to them and anymore. Did you
Hmm.
really forgive?
Hmm. Mm.
Right?
Does
So
that seem like from my experience that can like waver is like I can notice a very empowered state of like I understand why that happened, in a certain situation. I see why it happened. I see what I've gained from it, so much more insight and awareness and empowering. And then there'll be also be moments of like, oh my gosh, that happened. So is
yeah,
that normal to have those wavering of like you can see both sides?
yeah. So that's where the logical mind can
Hmm.
process all of it,
Hmm.
right? But many leaders, many successful people, high achieving women, your logic and intelligence is brilliant because you can see all of it.
Hmm.
But what you are disconnecting from is the emotional part of you. So you somehow try to overcome this emotional part with willpower, grit, determination, right? But unless you somehow, for the high achieving people, being emotional is weak. So you have to be this go getter, efficient, doing things. I get it, practically speaking, making life easy, simple thinking. That's all logic,
Hmm.
but you forget that there is also a space called heart space, and you have to be gentle and you have to connect to your emotions because emotion is a physical memory, not necessarily a mental memory.
Hmm.
So you have to focus on the mental, physical, and energetic.
Hmm.
But the logical people, they push with the mind, and the willpower gets limited after a point when it is not supported by energy and the body. And then when that willpower weakens, like I can't do it anymore,
Hmm.
then your foundation collapses because your foundation of physical and energetic is not strong.
Hmm.
But you're pushing with sheer grit
Right.
and that power. That's what
Hmm.
we're pushing with. So, what is important is to connect to that emotional aspect of you, which is your body, because your body keeps all these memories. And these memories So many a times you have people who is listening, you will have experienced it. Mentally you're okay, mind you can see that you can do it, but you will have this surge of rush in the body, or feeling that gut punch or the knot in the gut, or a rush in the heart over here. So this is all the training the body has received from you, that you forgot to untrain your body
Mhm.
internally, not the gym, not lifting weights, that internally.
Mhm.
And that internal physical training comes from silence and intention, focusing on that. That is the one that will take longer time.
Yeah.
And that's the one we ignored because we push with control, the
Mhm.
mind, right? The logical mind. So we had to connect to that energy and the body too. So mind, body, energy, we had to connect to these three.
Mhm.
When we don't, and we ignore this, and once this willpower drops, then there is nothing,
Mhm.
right? Because you didn't develop this, so it's gone, and then you collapse,
Yeah.
right? So the easiest way is to start focusing on connect to your emotion. Disconnection is not only a traumatic response.
Mhm.
Disconnection is also a outcome or a byproduct of you focusing too much on mind and logic.
Mhm. Right.
Analytical people, you cannot think like that,
Mhm.
right? So, and after a point, this emotion, once you heal this, for want of a better word, or once you connect to this body, that emotion is no longer a problem for you. And perhaps you may not feel that as well,
Mhm.
because you're not attracting that anymore. But
Right.
what is important is to connect to that. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's why you can logically do it, but the down moments are your vulnerable moments, which you are avoiding, masking, or do not want to show the world or anybody, and you're suffering in silence. Your sleepless nights are there. But that's why I ask, who are you when nobody is watching you?
Right. Mhm.
That is the attachment.
Mhm.
That is the identity.
Yeah.
That clinging to the worth and everything. That's why, oh my God, it happened to me.
Mhm.
Right? So
Yeah.
who are you when nobody is watching you?
Mhm.
That's more important. Yeah.
Yeah, and it can be so challenging too, because it's like, it's hard to see that in yourself sometimes because
Yeah.
you've lived like that for so long, especially if you've been in
Mm.
your head for so long. It can be really hard to have that ability to put the mirror on yourself and be like, "Oh, this is what I'm really thinking," because it almost rides below the surface and you get
Mm.
so good at putting on the face or saving face and
Yeah.
denying those
Yeah.
emotions in
Yeah. Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that comes from a lot of shame
Hmm.
or embarrassment or regrets or do not want to be seen that way. So
Right.
it's very interesting. And that again comes from me. But
Hmm.
perhaps in the big scheme of things, it's okay.
Hmm. Right.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to. I know you talk about the emotional memory pattern release.
Yeah.
Do you mind going into that, what it is, and how does that work? And I know you have a few steps with that. Do you mind just sharing those?
Sure. Right. So if you're a living, so the one thing that I realized after I worked on neurosciences, hypnosis, and subconscious mind, and all the techniques like EFTs and all of that.
Hmm.
And then I thought, oh, there's something in the body. And then I went on with the yoga, understanding what is it all about. And I became the yoga teacher. Then I went on to energy healing to understand different aspects. But one thing that remained for me was, if you truly understood your mind and subconscious, then why are you still suffering?
Hmm.
And if you are practicing this yoga for years or whatever, meditation for so long, why are you still suffering?
Hmm.
And if you are an energy healer or into energy healing, and if you got it, why are you suffering? Right? You shouldn't. If
Right.
you really got into it, because if we call ourselves perfectionists, but we did not find a perfect solution,
Hmm.
did we? So can you see we are in the bubble? We are living in the bubble of I'm a perfectionist, but if you are a practitioner, don't you think you have to go to the bottom of it and find that 1 + 1 = 2,
Hmm. Right.
right? That when I put together, and then also the ancient wisdom, I had to go and understand what is it Stoicism all about? What is Vedanta all about? What is all these philosophies all about? When I put that all together, and when you come back, somehow in the big scheme of things, subconscious became so prominent that you're so focused on the iceberg under the water
Mm-hmm.
than floating above and swimming forward.
Mm-hmm.
And you went on to subconscious, 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 and working on that.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is, if you're a living, breathing human being, forget about subconscious, forget about all these different things to symptomatically working on it or tappings. And if you really look at it, if you're a living, breathing human being, you only have these three: emotion, memory, and pattern. That's it, period. That is your 1 plus 1 equals to 2. And if you can master just those three, then it doesn't matter whether it is a body or mind or energy or a spiritual person or a practical person, philosophical or religious. Bottom line, you're a human being.
Mm-hmm.
So your spirituality is an outcome of this emotion and memory. So your spirituality is a pattern based on your emotions and memories, right? Like as I said, if you understand, there is no forgiveness. But because you cannot, or you're not equipped, or nobody is teaching you how to understand, you
Mm-hmm.
hold on to forgiveness as your spiritual practice, and you can continue that practice for 10 years. And finally, you may forgive, but you're not living your life for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
You're
Right. We're
missing out
just
on it.
suffering, trying to
Yeah,
force something.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, this emotion memory pattern, again, we are so bothered, and the whole world is again about values. You
Mm-hmm.
had to, how you had to stick to your values, and your values define who you are. But they are also symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
They are not you. Your values are not you. For a person who experiences silence as a punishment, openness and transparency becomes their value because they're avoiding silence.
Right.
For a person who is betrayed or felt the mom or dad was betrayed or they experienced some form of betrayal, honesty becomes their value.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see how the values are so symptomatic and
Mm-hmm.
not you at all? But
Yeah.
we stick to these values and say, I am honest, I want to find someone who is honest.
Mm-hmm.
For some person who could not leave their home and they got stuck in the house, or mom or dad denied them to go out on adventures, adventure becomes a value.
Mm-hmm.
And then you find people who want to be adventurous, and indirectly, knowingly or unknowingly, you're bonding with similarities,
Mm-hmm. Right.
right? And 9 out of 10, 99% of us, we are bound to form our lives based on what we don't want. It is
Mm-hmm.
not a bad thing. It's natural, isn't it? Don't touch the fire. Once you get burnt, okay, I will stay away from it. It's a natural thing, it's a good thing. But when we make that our identity
Mm-hmm.
and we cannot see and continue with the fear, that becomes your roadblock.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go behind that, so that's why you're stuck state. Don't work on goals, habits,
Mm-hmm.
changing habits because they're hard, and it's not about subconscious. It's something deep that identity has to shift. If you
Mm-hmm.
don't shift that, your subconscious you can shift, but you're still the same person. Smoking, people stop smoking, but have you changed?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Right. So
Mm-hmm.
what is important is
Mm-hmm.
that you is coded in emotions and memories.
Mm-hmm.
It's very abstract,
Yeah.
but because we are not pausing, we are not silent enough to listen to this enormous world that is talking to us. We are in the busyness, the noise, and listening to values and behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
And we are forgetting they are only symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
And we are judging, like a behavior of a betrayal, we are judging them.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go deep inside, if you're a living, breathing human being, only this emotion, memory, and pattern.
Mm-hmm.
Once you master that, you're free because you can see that. So that only happens when you cross the identity of logic and practicality.
Mm-hmm.
But only when you cross that, it's like bacteria and virus. You don't see them, but only if you take a microscope and you see them, you can see them.
Mm-hmm.
But how many of us are taking the microscope?
Right.
right? So I'm not saying you have to dig into it, but we have to pause. And this body is talking to you. Everything is talking to you. We are not listening.
Mm-hmm.
We are not listening because we are busy in our heads, mental space, not calendars, not Outlook and Google. This mental space is busy.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not listening. But when we listen, then you don't miss out on life.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's the emotion memory pattern. So that's why the 6 step framework, you first focus on working first time paradox, because the
Mm-hmm.
past, present, future. Because unless it's easy, so knowing is not being, isn't it? When I'm saying it, listeners, just don't take it as, oh, time is a human construct. No, you did not get it. You had to experience it. Knowing is not being, right? And once we understand and experience that, this will dissolve. So you don't have to spend 10, 20 years with compassion, forgiveness, and gratitude. You drop it just like that. That is why I give results in less than an hour. Even if you're stuck for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, most often people see that in the first hour. And after that, we work because we are working on the root, which is emotions and memories. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for someone who's like in that quiet space, I know it can be really challenging when you're used to having your
Yeah.
mind going in such a logical way that they can even sit quietly, but the mind keeps going back to that. What would
Yeah.
be your suggestion for someone who is taking the physical time to do that, but it still isn't feeling like they can just be and really tune into the emotional body?
Yeah. Right. So for those of you who are working, you may understand when I'm saying this concept of flow. The concept of flow is where you have to sit with the work. Like you have your calendar is so busy, you cannot focus on it. So
Mm-hmm.
what do? You have to first say no to everything else and you have to sit with it. And when you're sitting with it, it will take about 5 to 10 minutes when you're at your desk and you're working, and this is something you don't like, or it is too complicated to work, so you're procrastinating. The only thing that you do first is the first 10 minutes that is so important. The
Mm-hmm.
first 10 minutes is where I'm saying no to everything, no pings, no messages. I'm sitting and I am first getting familiar with what documents, where to pick them from, put them in one folder. So the first 10 minutes, though you're not doing the complicated work of analyzing and deeper work, the first 10 minutes is you're preparing.
Mm-hmm.
And that 10 minutes is leading you into the flow, and you lose time, you zone out. The same way, even for this slowing down, the first 10 minutes for a 2 hour, 3 hour work is probably first 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
And that first 30 days, it's okay. Mind will do what it is doing. But the problem or the biggest challenge again is we believe I am my mind,
Mm-hmm.
I am my body, I am my energy. And then you think or believe I am my thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
You are not your thought, you're not your mind. Mind is a pet, or
Mm-hmm.
mind is a garden, or mind is a team member. I am not my team member, am I? I am not my pet. I am not my garden, right? So I can sit now and my pet is doing all those things. I can observe and you still do your work.
Mm-hmm.
And when the pet feels hungry, you go feed the food and then you still go ahead and you do your work.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't become the pet. You're not the pet. Pet is different from you. The moment we get this understanding, but again, it only comes with experience and that guidance when you can start seeing. Because for very logical people, what do you mean I am not my mind? You're not your
Mm-hmm.
mind.
Yeah.
Once we develop this basic of doing mind, being mind, thinking mind, observer mind, and observer of the observer, you have all these 5 compartments.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like in neurosciences, you call it audio digital, that you talk to yourself because you have another mind.
Mm-hmm.
But when we say like this, oh, what do you mean? We have so many minds. But here you do say that audio digital mind, like you speak to yourself as a third person or a second person. Like, oh, hey, Kelly, what are you doing? Kelly, why are you doing that? Can you see the other mind that how to, once you start developing that,
Mhm.
when you're sitting in there, mind will do its job, your pet is running in its own way. And I do Nadi Prana, my morning practice every day. And in the practice, even the pets become quiet.
Mhm.
But in the initial days, they say, oh, my pet is running around wanting attention, it is sitting in my lap, and all of that. And with
Mhm.
the practice, pet sits in its place
Mhm.
because you give that energy to the pet, you are not the pet. So everything is mirroring you.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
once we, but this is not dissociation. Again, in the psychology world, it is so easy to call it dissociation or disconnection. No, it's not. It is these different compartments that we have, like the working mom, the cooking mom, the gardening mom, or
Mhm.
my time, like that. The roles, mine has its roles. When we can experience that, I am not my mind. So you sit quiet, world happens. Right? We
Mhm.
both are talking here. Maybe in your next neighborhood, something else is happening. It's not bothering you, right? You are focused in
You're in
this
here.
conversation. I am
Mhm.
focused on this. So when you're in that silence and you're focusing on that, let mind do what it does. But the challenge, I think the biggest challenge is we are conditioned that we should have no thoughts.
Mhm.
We are conditioned that we should be still.
Right.
Silence means stillness. No, it's not. Silence means observation.
Mhm.
You just observe. The thoughts are there. Why are you controlling that also?
Mhm. Right.
Right? So you don't go into a thoughtless state. I mean,
Mhm.
you will achieve that. Finally, it will be there when you're totally not connected to it. You can just stare into the sky. That's a possibility. But as a beginner, don't try to aim for thoughtless state or being still. It is happening, like your children are playing there. All you're observing is only for the sound of falling, or and only then you go there. Otherwise, they are there. You're doing your work. You're in your silence. So same way, you're in your silence and it happens. Mind is taking you to, oh, see, that happened, that person did this, or you had to get these things done. If you're sitting here for 5 minutes, that work will not get done. You're delaying, you're wasting, and everything else. But when you pause, time expands.
Right. Yeah, it's a really helpful explanation just to have those realistic explanations because I think sometimes you do hear that and I thought that initially when I started meditating and like what's wrong with me? I can't get that silence, but it was really powerful just to realize like oh, that's an opportunity to come back to your
Yeah,
center, to come back to your
yeah,
breath and so it really
yeah,
is like a training
yeah.
that you train the pet to be quiet and you train your mind
Mm,
to be able to be
yeah,
still in that moment. So
yeah,
I think it's really
yeah.
powerful for that to be shared again because it just really helps for anyone who's
Mm,
starting out to realize that like you don't have to
mm,
exonerate all thoughts in your mind. So
yeah.
this has been incredible. And I think it just really gives so much food for thought to understand like what's going below the surface, to really understand ourselves and navigate some of these patterns that maybe we've held on to for a long period of
Mm.
time. And for someone who wanted to dive deeper and connect with you, where can they find you?
Right. So the easiest way is to get onto my website, mannaabraham.com. Or if you want to go deeper into my philosophy and what do I do, finally free the 6 step path to heal generational and personal trauma when talk therapy is not enough is the book that's available on Amazon. So that gives you all the steps that I laid out in emotion, memory, and pattern, including identities. So that's a do book, not a read book. So please uh, go ahead and take one page at a time and do the work, and that will help you.
Love that. And I'll put everything in the show notes. So definitely connect. And this has been tremendous. Thank you so much for your insight and wisdom, just sharing everything today. I know it's going to be very helpful to whoever listens. So thank
Mm.
you.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you so much for taking this time and for having me here.
Absolutely. And again, for anyone listening, please share this episode and allow these messages to go out to anyone who needs to hear them. So thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you for spending this time with me today. If something in this episode stirred your truth, reminded you of your worth, or helped you see your patterns with more compassion, you're already rewiring your life. Remember, you don't have to earn your place, overgive to be valued, or shrink to keep the peace. You get to honor your voice, you get to protect your energy, you get to live aligned with who you really are. If you're ready to go deeper, explore more tools, or join a community of women walking this same path, head over to drkellykessler.com. Everything you need to continue this journey is waiting for you. Until next time, take a deep breath, trust yourself, and keep choosing the version of you who feels like home.